My dad gave my sister $230,000 for her wedding, I said, staring at the polished folder he had just pushed across the dining table. And you're telling me you can't help me with anything? My father did not blink. He leaned back in his chair, adjusted his expensive watch, and said the sentence that ended my place in that family forever. Emily, you don't deserve any help. My name is Emily Carter. I was 29 years old when those words cut through every excuse I had ever made for my family. I had spent my entire life trying to be reasonable, trying to understand why my accomplishments were treated like accidents, while my sister's smallest victories were framed like national holidays. That night, my fiancé sat beside me, silent but tense, while my mother folded her hands as if this were a business meeting and not the moment her younger daughter was being discarded. My sister's wedding budget had already become family mythology. A lakeside venue, imported flowers, designer dress fittings, luxury hotels, and a private rehearsal dinner that cost more than my car. I had asked for a modest contribution toward a small ceremony, not equal money, not even close. Just a sign that my happiness mattered too. Instead, my father looked me straight in the eye and told me I had chosen the wrong life, the wrong career, the wrong man, and therefore I had earned nothing. So I stood up, walked out, cut all contact, and built my life without them. 4 years later, my sister drove past my $4 million house and called my mother, crying, "Why does she have that?" Then my phone started ringing nonstop. Before I tell you what happened when those calls began, and what I finally said when my family showed up at my gate, tell me, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels before the truth reaches the people who need it most. I grew up in a wealthy suburb outside Chicago, in one of those homes that looked flawless from the sidewalk and felt freezing once you stepped inside. My father, Richard Carter, was a respected cardiologist with a polished reputation and the kind of calm voice that made strangers trust him instantly. My mother, Margaret Carter, taught economics at the University of Chicago and believed every life decision could be reduced to status, return on investment, and social positioning. My older sister, Lauren, fit perfectly into their world. She had our mother's golden hair, our father's confidence, and a natural instinct for becoming exactly what people in power wanted her to be. I had dark hair, a quieter personality, and the unforgivable habit of asking why. The favoritism was never hidden. It was just dressed up as practicality. When Lauren turned 16, my parents gave her a new white BMW with a silver bow across the hood. My father posted a picture online with the caption, "Proud of the daughter who never stops exceeding expectations." When I turned 16, I got a card with $75 inside and a suggestion that I apply at the grocery store near school if I wanted transportation independence. When Lauren graduated from high school, they sent her and 3 friends to Europe for 3 weeks. When I graduated with honors, my mother told me a party would be unnecessary because you have never liked attention anyway. The truth was, I had learned not to expect it. The most painful part was not even the money. It was the quiet editing of family history. Every Christmas, my mother printed a photo album for relatives. Lauren's pages were full of award ceremonies, vacations, dance recitals, and smiling portraits. My pages were usually group shots, where I was half hidden behind someone's shoulder. One year, I found a caption under a family photo that listed everyone by name except me. It said, "The Carters at Thanksgiving." I was standing right there in the picture, holding a serving spoon, invisible in my own home. Have you ever felt like a guest in the family that was supposed to belong to you? By college, the pattern had become undeniable. Lauren went to Northwestern, fully funded by my parents, with an off-campus apartment, a meal plan, a car allowance, and money for unpaid internships that looked good on her resume. I wanted to study marketing technology and product strategy, but my parents called it soft and unstable. They pushed me toward law, not because they thought I loved it, but because it looked impressive at dinner parties. When I refused, my father told me loans would teach me discipline. So I worked evenings at a bookstore, weekends at a coffee shop, and summers doing freelance social media campaigns for small businesses that barely had budgets. I was exhausted most of the time, but I was also proud. Every dollar I earned felt like proof that I existed outside their approval. I met Mike during my final year of college at a startup networking event where both of us were standing near the free coffee because neither of us could afford the paid bar. He was studying software engineering, paying his own way through school, and carrying the kind of quiet patience that comes from having no safety net. His parents were divorced, and he had grown up bouncing between apartments, learning early that love without reliability can still leave a person lonely. That was one reason we understood each other so quickly. We were not impressed by displays of wealth. We cared about consistency, honesty, and whether someone showed up when life got difficult. After graduation, Mike and I moved into a small apartment with bad heating and a view of a brick wall. I worked at a digital marketing agency, and he took a job as a junior developer. We budgeted every grocery trip, paid down our loans, and built little rituals that made our life feel rich even when our bank account did not. Friday nights were homemade pasta and old movies. Sunday mornings were long walks by Lake Michigan. We never had much, but we had peace. And for me, peace felt luxurious. When Mike proposed, it was not at a 5-star resort or in front of a photographer. It happened on a cold October morning at the lakefront, while the wind kept ruining my hair and both of us were laughing too hard to make the moment look cinematic. The ring had belonged to his grandmother, a small diamond in a simple gold setting. I cried because it was beautiful, but also because it felt honest. We planned a small wedding, 40 guests, a neighborhood restaurant, simple flowers, and a ceremony that focused on vows instead of spectacle. Our budget was $12,000, most of it saved slowly over 2 years. Then Lauren got engaged to Derek, a private equity associate from a family my parents considered proper. Within 24 hours, my parents had thrown a celebration dinner for her. Within 48 hours, my mother had created a shared spreadsheet titled Lauren and Derek Wedding Vision. And within a week, my father had announced, with almost theatrical pride, that he and my mother were contributing $230,000 to give Lauren the wedding she deserved. That phrase stayed in my head. The wedding she deserved. I did not know then that 2 weeks later, the same word would be used to tell me exactly where I stood. I did not ask my parents for $230,000. I need that to be clear. I knew better than to expect equality. What I hoped for was something symbolic, something that said, "Emily, we see you too." Mike warned me gently not to get my hopes up, but he also understood why I needed to ask. Some part of me still believed that if I approached my parents calmly, respectfully, and reasonably, they might finally respond like parents instead of judges. My mother invited us to dinner on a Sunday evening. The difference between Lauren's engagement dinner and mine was so obvious it almost felt staged. Lauren had champagne, catered food, flowers, neighbors, family friends, and a cake from the bakery my mother saved for important occasions. Mike and I got reheated chicken, a bagged salad, and my father checking hospital emails between bites. No one asked about the proposal. No one asked to see the ring. My mother only said, "So, you are really doing this soon?" I told them our plan. A small ceremony, a modest reception, nothing extravagant. I explained that we had saved most of the money ourselves, but were still short if we wanted to include close family and a few friends. Mike added politely, that we were not asking for anything large, just wondering whether they wanted to contribute in any way. My father set down his fork like he had been waiting for that sentence. "How much are you expecting?" he asked. "I'm not expecting," I said. "I'm asking." My mother looked at my father, and he pulled a folder from the chair beside him. That was the first moment I understood this was not a conversation. It was a verdict. He opened the folder and turned it toward us. Inside was a printed comparison sheet. On one side, Lauren. On the other side, Emily. Under Lauren's name were phrases like strong family alignment, excellent social match, stable future, prestigious network, and consistent respect for family values. Under mine were phrases like independent decision-making, limited family engagement, non-traditional career path, and financially self-directed. My hands went cold. Mike stared at the sheet, his jaw tightening. "Did you seriously make a performance review for your daughters?" My father ignored him. "Lauren has made choices that strengthen this family," he said. "Her marriage connects two respected families. Her wedding is an investment in that future." "And mine?" I asked. My mother sighed as if I were making this difficult. "Yours is personal, smaller, less strategic." Less strategic. That was how they described my marriage. I looked at my father. "So because Mike doesn't come from money, because I didn't choose the career you wanted, because I built my own life, I don't deserve support?" He did not hesitate. "Emily, you don't deserve any help. You chose independence. Now live independently." For a few seconds, I heard nothing. The room did not spin dramatically. I did not scream. I just felt something inside me detach with a soft, final click. Mike's hand found mine under the table. His palm was warm. Mine was ice. Then my mother added, "Lauren has always understood how to honor this family. You have always wanted to prove you don't need us, so prove it." That sentence erased the last fragile excuse I had been holding for them. I stood up slowly. "You're right," I said. "I don't need you." My father's face hardened. "Do not be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic," I said. "I'm being done." We left before dessert. In the car, Mike asked if I wanted to talk. I shook my head because I knew if I opened my mouth, I would break. Back at our apartment, I sat on the bathroom floor for almost an hour, not crying loudly, just letting tears fall because the truth had finally become too clear to negotiate with. I had spent 29 years auditioning for love in a family that had already cast me as the disappointment. The next morning, I called Lauren. I do not know what I expected. Maybe I wanted her to say the comparison sheet was cruel. Maybe I wanted her to admit that $230,000 for her wedding and nothing for mine was unfair. Instead, she sounded annoyed that I had interrupted her meeting with a florist. "Emily, you always do this," she said. "Do what?" "Turn things into a competition." I almost laughed. "Lauren, Dad made a literal comparison sheet." "Well, you have to understand their perspective," she said. "They feel like you reject the family and then want the benefits of being part of it." I wanted my parents to care that I'm getting married. "They do care," she said. "They're attending, aren't they?" That was the moment I realized Lauren was not blind to the favoritism. She was protected by it. And people protected by unfair systems rarely want to question them. 2 weeks later, a message appeared in the family group chat. My mother posted a photo of Lauren standing inside an Aspen venue with floor-to-ceiling windows and snow-covered mountains behind her. Under it, she wrote, "Venue secured. Estimated total now around $230,000, but our princess deserves magic." Then she tagged me and wrote, "Emily, we expect all close family to contribute to the welcome dinner gift presentation. Suggested amount, $1,500. I stared at the message for so long the screen dimmed. They would not help me pay for my small wedding, but they expected me to contribute to Lauren's luxury celebration. Mike read it over my shoulder and said quietly, You don't have to do this. But I went to the wedding. Not because they deserved my presence, but because I wanted to know, completely and finally, whether there was anything left to save. There wasn't. At the Aspen wedding, Mike and I were seated at a table near the service entrance with distant relatives and two vendors who had apparently been given guest meals. My place card even had my name spelled wrong. During my father's toast, he called Lauren the daughter who made every sacrifice worthwhile. My mother cried while saying, "Some children wander, but Lauren has always known where she belongs." Several people glanced at me. Lauren saw it happen. She smiled into her champagne glass. The final humiliation came near the end of the night. My mother approached our table and whispered, "Try not to look so stiff, Emily. People notice resentment." I stood up, walked outside into the cold mountain air, and opened my phone. One by one, I deleted the family album app my mother had used for years, left the group chat, blocked my parents, blocked Lauren, and removed every social media connection that kept reopening the wound. Then I took the old birthday card from my wallet, the one I had kept since I was 18 because it contained the last handwritten "Love Dad" I could remember, and tore it into 4 pieces. I did not throw it dramatically into the snow. I placed it in a trash can beside the venue entrance and walked back to Mike. "I'm ready to go home," I said. He stood immediately. "Then we go." That night, in a cheap airport hotel because every nice room near the venue was booked, I made the decision that saved my life. I stopped trying to be chosen by people who only knew how to rank me. The first months after cutting contact were not triumphant. That is the part people often misunderstand. Boundaries can be healthy and still hurt. I grieved in strange, humiliating waves. A grocery store display of Thanksgiving decorations could ruin my afternoon. A colleague mentioning her mother's advice about wedding dresses could send me to the restroom to breathe through tears. I had not only lost my family, I had lost the fantasy that one day they would wake up, see me clearly, and apologize. Mike never rushed me to heal. He did not say, "Forget them." He knew forgetting was impossible. Instead, he said, "Let's build something they can't enter unless you open the door." At first, I thought he meant emotionally. Later, I realized he meant our entire life. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Harris, who specialized in family systems and emotional neglect. During one session, I described the comparison sheet, the Aspen seating arrangement, the group chat request, and the way my father had said, "You don't deserve any help." Dr. Harris listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Your parents did not simply favor your sister. They built a moral system where obedience was rewarded and authenticity was punished." That sentence changed something in me. I had spent years wondering what was wrong with me. What if the real problem was that I had refused to become a decoration in their carefully staged life? Therapy did not make me instantly strong. It made me honest. I admitted that I still wanted my mother to call. I admitted that I sometimes imagined my father showing up at my office, embarrassed but sincere, saying he had made a terrible mistake. I admitted that I was angry at Lauren not only for accepting the favoritism, but for pretending it was virtue. Every admission loosened the knot inside me. Mike had his own wounds. His father had disappeared emotionally long before the divorce, and his mother had been too overwhelmed to protect him from instability. He understood what it meant to grow up learning that love could be unreliable. One evening, while we sat on the floor surrounded by unpaid bills and takeout containers, he told me, "I think we both spent our childhoods learning how to survive other people's limitations. Maybe now we learn how to create without them." That became the foundation of Streamforge. The idea started small. Mike had been developing automation tools for small businesses, and I knew from my marketing work that many independent owners were drowning in disconnected systems. They had websites that did not talk to their booking tools, customer lists trapped in spreadsheets, and advertising campaigns they could not measure. Larger companies could afford custom software and agencies. Smaller ones were left guessing. We wanted to build a platform that helped self-made business owners compete without needing a massive budget or a family safety net. At night, after our regular jobs, Mike coded at the kitchen table while I built the brand, wrote pitch decks, mapped customer journeys, and reached out to local businesses. We called the company Streamforge because we liked the idea of turning scattered effort into something strong and directed. Our first office was our apartment. Our first conference room was the corner near the radiator that clanked in winter. Our first investor was no one. We used savings, credit cards, and freelance income, which meant every mistake hurt. There were nights I wanted to quit. One beta client canceled after 3 weeks and told us our interface was confusing. Another delayed payment for 2 months. Mike and I argued about pricing, product scope, and whether we were being brave or reckless. But even on the hardest nights, the work felt different from chasing my family's approval. This pain was productive. It belonged to a future I had chosen. A year after launching, Streamforge landed a regional fitness studio chain as a client. The owner had been referred by a friend and gave us one chance to prove we could reduce missed bookings and improve customer retention. Mike customized the back end until 2 a.m. for 11 straight nights. I rebuilt their digital onboarding and ad funnel. 30 days later, their membership renewals had increased enough for them to sign a full-year contract. Then they referred us to 3 other businesses. Growth came slowly, then all at once. We hired 2 freelancers, then 3 full-time employees, then a customer success lead who told us, kindly but firmly, that our internal processes were heroic but unsustainable. She was right. We learned. We adapted. We stopped treating burnout like proof of commitment and started building systems that could support people. During this time, my family stayed silent. My mother sent 1 birthday card with only her signature. My father sent nothing. Lauren's wedding photos appeared through mutual acquaintances even though I had blocked her. She looked radiant in every image. My parents looked victorious. For a while, those photos hurt. Then they became evidence of a world I no longer needed to enter. 2 years after Aspen, Mike and I finally got married. We did it in the private dining room of our favorite restaurant, with 32 people who had actually loved us through the rebuilding. I wore a simple ivory dress. Mike cried before I even reached him. Our vows mention patience, chosen family, and the sacred relief of being fully known. No one gave a speech about status. No one compared me to anyone. No one said I was less. At the reception, my best friend raised a glass and said, "To Emily and Mike, who built a home in each other before they ever bought one." That line stayed with me because it was true. We did not have a mansion then. We did not have millions. We had something rarer. We had a relationship no one could purchase, rank, or publicly perform. Streamforge crossed its first million in annual revenue the following spring. By then, we had 12 employees, a waiting list of clients, and a product that was gaining attention in startup circles. A Chicago business journal published a profile about us titled, "The Platform Helping Small Businesses Fight Back." My mother must have seen it because 2 days later, a blank LinkedIn profile viewed mine. No message followed. I used to think silence meant I was being punished. By then, I understood silence could also be protection. The 3rd year after cutting contact changed everything. Streamforge released a new analytics tool that helped small businesses track exactly which marketing campaigns turned into real revenue. It was practical, powerful, and desperately needed. A regional retail group adopted it first, then a hospitality chain, then a healthcare franchise network. Suddenly, investors who had ignored us in the beginning wanted meetings. Mike and I were careful. We had not built Streamforge just to sell it to people who saw customers as numbers. We accepted strategic funding only after securing control of the company's direction. Soon, we moved into a real office near Fulton Market, hired a leadership team, and expanded across multiple states. I became CEO, not because I wanted a title, but because I had finally stopped being afraid of being seen. Every board meeting felt like quiet revenge against the comparison sheet my father had once pushed across the dinner table. The traits my parents had mocked, independence, stubbornness, and refusal to obey, had become the very traits that built our success. Around that time, pieces of my family's collapse began reaching me through mutual acquaintances. My father was named in a serious malpractice case. At first, he dismissed it as professional jealousy, but the hospital placed him under review. Then another complaint appeared. His legal fees grew and his reputation began to crack. My mother's social circle also started pulling away. Invitations slowed. Charity committees replaced her. People who once praised the Carter family began whispering about lawsuits, debt, and appearances. Lauren's life unraveled too. Derek's family wealth turned out to be built on loans, inflated assets, and confidence that disappeared the moment banks stopped cooperating. Their luxurious Aspen wedding became a bitter joke among people who knew how many unpaid bills followed it. Lauren and Derek fought constantly, and the perfect life my parents had invested in began falling apart. I did not celebrate their pain. It did not heal what they had done to me. It only proved that the values they worshipped had never been strong enough to build a real life. By then, Mike and I had begun searching for a home. We wanted privacy, warmth, and space for the chosen family that had supported us. After months of searching, we found a contemporary house near Lake Michigan. $4 million. Glass walls, a quiet office overlooking the water, a library, a warm modern kitchen, and a backyard surrounded by trees. The first time I walked inside, I did not think, my parents would be impressed. I thought, I can breathe here. We bought it without help, without family money, and without anyone's approval. On closing day, Mike handed me the keys and said, "Welcome home, Em." I cried in the empty living room because the house was not just a house. It was proof that I had survived every door they closed. Then, 4 years after I walked out of my parents' dining room, Lauren drove past it. A friend texted me that she had seen my sister stopped outside the gate, staring at the house and taking a picture. 2 hours later, my phone rang from a blocked number. I ignored it. Then it rang again, and again. By noon, I had more than 20 missed calls. My mother finally left a voicemail. "Emily, sweetheart, it's Mom. Lauren just saw your house. She's crying. She keeps asking why you have that when everything here is falling apart. We need to talk." By evening, my phone was ringing nonstop. My mother, my father, Lauren, unknown relatives, old family friends. Everyone who had ignored me for 4 years suddenly remembered my number. Mike turned the phone face down on the kitchen island. "You don't owe them access." I knew he was right. But I also knew I was done hiding. I agreed to one meeting. Not for reconciliation, for clarity. I told them they could come the following Saturday at 2 o'clock. But I set clear rules. No surprise guests, no recording, no insults, no guilt games. If anyone disrespected Mike or tried to threaten me, the meeting would end immediately. My mother replied, "We just want our family back." I stared at the message for a long time. Families do not usually come back because of a house. When security called from the gate, Mike stood beside me. "Are you ready?" "Yes," I said. "I want to see who they are when they can't pretend not to see me." My parents arrived with Lauren. My father looked older, his confidence thinner than before. My mother wore a fragile smile that seemed practiced in the car. Lauren stood behind them with sunglasses and a designer bag, but nothing about her felt untouchable anymore. Her eyes moved through my home, measuring every detail. We sat in the living room. I refused to recreate the dining table where they had judged me. My mother started softly. "This house is extraordinary." "Thank you," I said. My father added, "We had no idea you were doing this well." "That seems to be the theme," Mike said calmly. Lauren's eyes snapped toward him. Is he going to comment the whole time? He is my husband, I said. He has more right to speak in my home than any of you. The room went silent. My mother folded her hands. Emily, we know there has been pain. No, I said. Say what pain. My father exhaled. We may have handled your wedding situation poorly. You made a comparison sheet ranking me against Lauren, I replied. Then you told me I didn't deserve help. Lauren shifted uncomfortably. That was years ago. And yet my house is current enough to matter. That was when my father stopped pretending. This family is in crisis. My medical license is under review. The settlement nearly destroyed us. Your mother and I had to sell the house. Lauren is divorcing Derek, and he is trying to ruin her financially. Lauren looked down. He's trying to limit access to Ava. Ava was my niece, a child I had never met. For a moment, sadness passed through me. She had done nothing wrong. She was just another child trapped inside adult consequences. My mother leaned forward quickly. That's why family matters. We need support. What kind of support? Mike asked. My father looked directly at me. A temporary loan, $500,000, legal fees, professional rebuilding, and Lauren's custody case. I laughed once, quietly. You gave Lauren $230,000 because she deserved it. You gave me nothing because I didn't. Now you want $500,000 from me because your choices collapsed. Lauren's voice turned sharp. You can afford it. There it was. Not apology, not regret, just entitlement. Then my mother's tone changed. If you refuse, people may hear that you abandoned your parents while living in luxury. That would not look good for your reputation. I reached beside my chair and placed a folder on the coffee table. Inside were screenshots, legal notices, and documentation my attorney had prepared in case they tried to damage me or streamforge publicly. Before you threaten me, I said, understand that I am protected. My father stared at the folder. You investigated us? No, I protected myself. Lauren whispered, You've become cruel. No, I said. I became unavailable for abuse. My mother stood, shaking. After everything we sacrificed, you sacrificed for Lauren, I said. You invested in Lauren. You protected Lauren. And when that investment failed, you came to me like an emergency bank account. My father raised his voice. We are your parents. You were my parents when I was 16 and needed support. You were my parents when I worked through college. You were my parents when I got engaged. You were my parents when I sat at your table asking for one sign that my happiness mattered. You chose then. You don't get to rediscover biology because I became useful. Lauren started crying. So you'll do nothing? Not even for Ava? I took a slow breath. I will pay directly for documented emergency medical care for Ava if she ever needs it. Not through you. Not in cash. Directly to the provider. But I will not fund Dad's reputation repair, Mom's lifestyle, your divorce, or Derek's mess. My mother looked offended. You think we can't be trusted? I think money has already shown me what everyone in this room values. Mike stood beside me. The meeting is over. At the door, Lauren turned back. Did you ever love me? The question hurt because the answer was yes. I did, I said. But loving you does not require letting you use me. After they left, the calls began again. My mother cried. My father threatened. Lauren sent message after message about Ava. Relatives I barely knew accused me of being heartless. My phone rang nonstop until Mike turned it off and put it in a drawer. That night, I barely slept. But I did not doubt myself. Every message they sent confirmed one thing clearly. They still did not want me. They wanted access to what I had built. The next morning, I sent one final email. I told my parents and Lauren that I would not provide financial support. I told them any harassment, defamation, or third-party pressure would go through my attorney. I repeated that I would cover documented emergency medical care for Ava directly if necessary, but no adult in that family would receive money from me. Then I wrote the sentence I had needed for years. You taught me that support must be earned. I have now learned that access to my life must be earned too. After sending it, I blocked them again. This time, I did not do it from pain. I did it from peace. Over the next year, their consequences became impossible to hide. My father's medical review ended badly. The malpractice case exposed documentation failures and arrogance that made colleagues unwilling to defend him. He lost hospital privileges, then accepted permanent restrictions that ended the career he had used to measure everyone's worth. The man who once judged my choices now worked part-time in a medical billing office, answering to managers younger than me. My mother's fall was quieter but just as painful for her. Her social circle faded, committees stopped calling. The women who once admired her perfect family now whispered about lawsuits, debt, and Lauren's divorce. She had built her identity on appearances, and appearances had abandoned her. Lauren's divorce grew ugly. Derek's attorneys brought out credit card statements, unpaid wedding vendors, and financial records that made her look reckless. For a while, custody arrangements for Ava were placed under strict review. That part hurt. Ava was innocent. She was simply born into a family where adults cared too much about winning. Months later, Lauren emailed me from a new address. The first messages were angry, then defensive. Then one day she wrote, "I don't know who I am without them telling me I'm the good one." I read that sentence several times. For the first time, I felt compassion without responsibility. Lauren had benefited from being the golden child, but she had also been trapped by it. 2 years after the confrontation, I saw her in a grocery store. She looked tired, plain, and smaller somehow, not weak, just stripped of performance. We stood frozen for a moment. "Emily," she said. "Lauren." She looked down at her basket. "Ava's doing better. The custody schedule is stable now." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. Then she swallowed and whispered, "I was awful to you." I had imagined that apology for years. In my fantasies, it fixed everything. In real life, it was small, sad, and late. "Yes," I said. "You were." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry." Thank you for saying that." She looked like she wanted more. Forgiveness, reunion, maybe a sister. But I had learned that not every apology requires immediate access. Some apologies open doors. Some only prove that a wall was necessary. "I hope you keep getting better," I said. Then I paid for my groceries and left. That evening, Mike asked if I wanted to reconnect with her. "Not right now," I said. "Maybe not ever." But I'm glad she apologized. My life now is not perfect, but it is mine. Streamforge continues to grow, but I no longer confuse success with worth. Mike and I created a foundation for first-generation entrepreneurs, especially young women building without family money or emotional support. Every time we fund someone who has been underestimated, I think about my father's comparison sheet. Then I remember, this is what money should do. It should open doors, not rank people. My parents still tell relatives I abandoned them. I no longer defend myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. I simply say, I wish them well, but we are not in contact. The strangest part is that my $4 million house was never the real victory. It was only the mirror that forced my family to see the truth. I had not failed without them. I had flourished without them. And that was the wound their pride could not survive. My father once told me I did not deserve help. For years, I thought that sentence was a curse. Now I understand it as an accidental gift. It forced me to stop waiting at a locked door and build my own home. If your family only returns when your life becomes impressive, ask yourself what they actually miss, you, or the benefits of being close to you. If someone denied your worth when you needed love, do they deserve access when you finally have peace? And if you were in my place, sitting across from the people who once said you deserved nothing, would you open your wallet or close the door?
Thank you for watching another fictional story from our channel. Everything here was created only for entertainment, dramatic reflection, and educational purposes. We hope it reminds you that sometimes the harder choice is also the healthiest one. Leaving behind the people who drain your peace may feel painful at first, but it can become the beginning of a life that finally feels lighter.